Behave yourself, people.
All right, so welcome everyone. Thank you for being here tonight for this presentation of Taylor's Message presented by Kathi Sullivan. I am Liz Brochu, the Youth Services Director and Substance Misuse Prevention Coordinator for Communities for Alcohol and Drug for Youth, also known as Katie. And tonight's presentation is being recorded and will be available on the Katie website, katieinc.org, beginning tomorrow. I did want to give you a brief introduction of Katie, Communities for Alcohol and Drug for Youth. We are a nonprofit in Central New Hampshire, and our mission is youth substance misuse prevention. Tonight is sponsored by Katie's Parent Advisory Council, and I want to thank all of the parents involved in the Parent Advisory Council, as well as the parents who are actively involved in promoting the Katie mission. April is Alcohol Awareness Month, and we have tonight's presentation, which we're so excited about, as well as our webinar next Thursday, April 15th, which is titled, What is Drinking Responsibly? And on April 22nd, we have 8 Truths About Alcohol presented by our Youth Advocacy and Advisory Council. So you can go ahead and go register for those and all of our upcoming webinars at katieinc.org. A few housekeeping reminders for tonight. I ask that everyone remain muted during the presentation to reduce background noise. Please feel free to keep your videos on. It is so nice to see your faces, and actually Kathi prefers it. So please keep those videos on. There will be time for Q&A, so please use the chat box to ask any and all your questions. And we will also have a short program evaluation on SurveyMonkey at the end, and we'd be so appreciative if you would take the time to fill it out. Those who fill the evaluation out will be able to sign up to receive a free Operation Parent Handbook, which is a $10 value. And as parents, we must choose awareness and prevention. The Operation Parent Handbook is an outstanding resource that helps educate parents so they can connect the dots between seemingly harmless issues like social media use, high-risk behaviors such as substance misuse as well. So this amazing handbook covers anxiety, substance use, social media, and screen time, plus a lot more in their recent version of the parent handbook for middle and high school students. So let us know if you'd like your free copy, and we'd be more than happy to send that out to you. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Kathi Sullivan. We are so thrilled to have you, Kathi, tonight to help us learn the importance of making good decisions surrounding underage drinking and life in general. So welcome, Kathi. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And I am so happy to see little faces, because most of the time they have you do these on just webinars. So I don't get to like see you interact. I don't get to see like Amanda. I'm assuming that's with your mom, right? Are you with your mom? Yes, I love my mother and daughter teams. So like to be able to see the faces is super important to me. So you guys without the face, I don't mind. I'm not offended at all, but I just like to see a couple of them is all I really need. So, and you did mention, Liz, that, feel free to ask questions. You can do it on the question and answers, or you can just have a conversation with us at the end of it. But I also want you guys to realize that if it's a private question from maybe my topics that I talked about that you don't necessarily want recorded, because remember you're being recorded, you can always put it in the question and answers, right, Liz? So then it can be like an anonymous question, right? Awesome. Okay, so remember that too at the end. But I will share with you first and foremost, let's start by saying I am an open book. So there is no question that you can possibly ask me at the end of this presentation that would upset me at all. So please, if there is anything in your head afterwards, do not hesitate to ask me. And you're going to learn that really, really quickly with seeing me present and seeing how real I am. As I showed you, I've got wicked grays. So I'm as real as it gets, people. Life is real. It's not about being perfect. She was cute. She's like, I love your hair. I'm like, oh no, it's not good. But life is not always perfect. And that is probably the biggest lesson I had to learn 12 years ago. And as she said, I'm here to teach you. She had asked me about sending over a bio for her. And I always tell everybody whenever they ask that, I say, I just want to say it's Kathi and she's here to chat with you guys, because literally that is all we're going to do tonight. You know, I'm going to share my kid with you, and I have her back there. She's right there too, because that's my big one I bring when I go into schools. But this is actually my kid. So that's a picture of Taylor, and you're going to see a lot of her soon. But this is actually my kid, but this is her all dolled up. This is her senior picture. And I always bring the senior picture when I'm in schools to speak, because I want you to see my kid. Now, Amanda, you look like you're almost her age. What, sophomore, junior, senior? Yeah. What, how old are you, young lady?
I'm the mom. This is my daughter.
Yes, no, well, okay, so you're Amanda. So the daughter, how old's your daughter?
I'm 14.
14, oh good, so that's perfect age. I'm gonna make her life so much easier, and yours too. So, you know, but I always bring this because I want people to realize, hey, Taylor's just like your kids. She's just like the students that might be in this room. You know, she was living a good life. She was a great kid, but because of poor choices, she didn't get to graduate with her fellow students that year in high school as a senior in high school. And I will share with you that I started speaking at schools literally 2 months after my Tay had passed away. It was her senior in high school in 2008. And because of poor choices, she didn't get to graduate, all from underage drinking. And I can honestly share with you guys, I don't know how I managed to stand up at my first school 2 months later, except to tell everybody on here, 17 years, 3 months and 3 days for her. Totally impossible. That's all she should have meant to be. And I know without a purpose, without a doubt, that there was a purpose behind this. And all I do when I go to schools, as I told you, a couple of you when you were here, I love to greet you. So if I was at your school today, what I would be doing is I would be greeting those kids at the doors when they walked in the door. They would see this super happy face, because I will tell you, I've got however many people on here, I'm probably the most joyous person in this room right now. I wake up happy as can be, but that was a conscious decision for me to make that be who I became. But when I go to schools, I literally meet the kids at the door and I greet them. And like, if you had a big bun on your head, I would have commented on that, because Taylor always had hair on her head. You know, if you had a baggy sweatshirt, she stole them from all her guy friends. You know, long-haired boys, I love my long-haired boys. I always comment to them too. And I always try to connect with them before they get in the door. And that happened almost immediately when I started schools. And I honestly don't know how I did that either. But I just have to say, in the beginning of this presentation, there actually is no other place I'd like to be. And that's really hard to say as a mom who has lost a kid because of underage drinking. But I also know it's for a purpose. So I'm going to share with you my kids. So via Zoom, instead of having a screen back here, we actually get to share a screen. So wish me luck on this, because this is always super challenging. People who say it isn't lie to you. So here it is. Ready? So this is my kid. So we're going to start from the beginning, hopefully. Beginning of slideshow. Where are you? From beginning. Okay. So now, Liz, you're going to pipe up and tell me you can see that, right?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, perfect. So now I can't see you guys, so you guys are on your own again, but you can see, can you see me in the camera? Or is it gone?
Yes, I can see
Okay.
you.
Okay, perfect. So I won't do anything crazy, but that is my amazing child over there. That is Taylor on the left, and that's her best friend Paige on the right. And they were frickin' frack. And I always bring that picture because that picture describes my kid to a T. That is my daughter's loud personality and happiness. And that is her friend Paige on the right. And they were best friends. They were best friends since they were 5 years old. We are townies. I have been in my town for 52 years now, and Taylor was there her whole 17 years. And Paige and Tay had been friends forever. She is a big part of this story as well. But I can also share with you, I'm sure some of you can see this line down the middle here. And that line down the middle is because for a long time after I had lost Tay, I didn't want to see Paige's face because of some poor choices that everybody made, Taylor including, and Paige. So I actually had that picture folded on my cork board so I could see my Tay. I will share with you that she struggled for years afterwards because of some choices she had made. But I am also very proud to tell you today that she is doing very, very well. She's in recovery like 3 years now. She's got a 1-year-old beautiful baby, and we are once again very, very close. So that is a blessing. I always bring the real pictures of Tay, and I also bring that senior picture like I just showed you, because any of the kids in this room right now, I want you to know that that's her on the right, but that's my girl all dolled up. She's got makeup on, she got her hair done, she got a cute little sweater on. Not my kid. The kid on the left is my kid. She played softball. She was an amazing athlete. She was outstanding in everything that she did. It was pretty amazing. But I bring these pictures, and that's my favorite photo of her. But I also bring this because, as you can tell, my Tay, she's not in any of those pictures. And the first time that I had to take a picture with my boys without my Tay, it was obviously really, really hard. But on October 17th, 2008, like I told you, I had to make that conscious decision to be this joyous human being that I've been the majority of my life. And I don't care who we are, there's always going to be that moment that something is going to hit you in your life, and you're going to have to make that decision yourself. And I will share with you that I hope you can do it, because I know Tay is very proud of me that I have. And I hope that you give yourself that chance as well. I'm admitting somebody into the room. I don't know if you could see that. I just let them in. So those are my boys. You ready? So that's Zachary, and he was 19 at the time. Taylor was 17, and my youngest son, Logan, was 10. Those are my boys. And as you can tell, I also got married. That cute, handsome man up there is my husband. And I actually met Chris at one of these presentations. So just like you came tonight, he actually came to my very first parent night. And he wasn't there because he was a parent. He was actually there because he had suffered with years of an alcohol and a heroin addiction after playing for the Patriots. And his sponsor had actually brought him there to be able to see what alcohol can do to a family. And I know for a fact that my Tay handpicked that man for me, because he went to that presentation, and then he started bringing his mother to the future presentations. And then a couple of years later, on 1/1 at 1 o'clock, he's never forgetting my anniversary, we actually got married. And I always laugh because Logan was so little then. He was only 10, and see how small he is in that wedding picture? He always used to say to me, you know what, Mom, I just hope I get as tall as Chris. And I was like, Logan, it doesn't work like that. He's your stepfather. But just to show you, that boy has grown. He is now like 6'3" somehow. So I don't even know how it happened, but it did. That's my family today, as I said, and those are my grandbabies. My boys don't have any kids, but Chris's ex-girlfriend did, and that's how we get our grandbabies. It's all good. So those are my grandbabies as well. And then this is actually Taylor. And this is actually Taylor the last day that she went to school. And I will share with everyone on this that I am blessed to have these pictures. I am blessed that I got to see what my kid did her last day of school. It was homecoming night, it was Spirit Week, and I remember Taylor getting up in the morning, and I remember I had to go up to her bedroom to grab something. And I remember she was doing her hair, getting herself all pretty, and I'm like, hey, Tay, what's up? You took a shower? Because my kid wouldn't take showers for days. I'm sure the parents in the room can totally feel my pain, right? So I said, hey, Tay, what's up? You actually took a shower. And she goes, oh, it's Spirit Week. Lots of pictures for the yearbook. And what I didn't know is, Tay's mom, I was actually gonna get those pictures. So I am so lucky to have any of these pictures that you see in the green that are gonna be coming up, because I got to see what my kid did her last day of school. And parents on here, we know that's not usually the case. So I am so lucky to have them. So those pictures are gonna scroll, and they're gonna stop after, and then I'm gonna get back up on the screen. But I always stop at this moment because anyone on here, I want you to see my face, especially if you're a kid. I do not want you looking up here and seeing Tay's mom. I want you to look up here, and I want you to see your mom, your dad, your aunt, your grandparent, your guardian, whoever it is that truly, truly loves you, And I want you to picture them standing up here, and they're actually talking about you. And they're talking about you because you chose to drink for a night. It is the foolishest thing you could ever possibly do in this scenario. That is the most important thing I can say to you guys. Now, I am not here to preach to you. I am not a counselor, a teacher. I don't have any numbers or letters after my name except for my real estate stuff. But I want you guys just to listen to Tay's story, and then hopefully we can all learn from it and make better choices as parents and as kids. So now I'm going to share the screen again. So wish me luck. Okay. Okay, where is she? Oh, goodness. Doesn't look the same, but I'm sure I can find it. Hold on. Hold on 1 second. It's this one. Okay, share. Okay, so that's my kid. So now these are just going to go. Hopefully, let's see. Ready? Yes. Now they're just going to process. So if for some reason these don't move, Liz, definitely tell me, but I think I'll be able to tell. As I said, I'm literally just here to tell you what happened that evening. So as Taylor was getting ready in the morning, like I told you, she was getting all dolled up in that cute little outfit that you see in the back left. She was going to get ready for school. On another side note, quickly before this turns, that is the last house party that Taylor went to, and I will share with you in a few minutes about that. But so Taylor walked out the door to school that morning at like 7:30, and she walked out the door and I said goodbye and I love you like I always did. And what I didn't know is her mom, it was going to be the last time that I physically saw my Tay, because you see, Tay was going to go have a sleepover with her best friend Paige, like she had done her whole entire life. It wasn't a big deal for me as a parent. Taylor went to school and I went to work like a normal Friday. While Taylor was at school, what ended up happening was Taylor and Paige decided to go ask her older brother if they would go buy them some alcohol. So what Brian did, Paige's brother, he literally said, okay, I'll get it for you. So he was actually in the car, and he was only 20 years old at the time. He was not 21, but he had his best friend and his girlfriend in the car with him. And what ended up happening was he looked at the girlfriend and he said, hey, will you go buy them some alcohol? And the girlfriend answered no. And I can share with you that is probably the best decision that girl has ever made in her life. Now, he looked at his best friend, Sean, and he said, will you go get them some alcohol? And he said, sure, what do they want? And he went in and he bought the girls 2 big bottles of Bacardi Raz. And then what ended up happening was Taylor and Paige met Brian after school, and they got the alcohol from them, and they ended up going to their first house party. Now, we have a regional school, so probably sometimes you guys do as well. We have 3 towns in our school. So we live in Plainville. The first house party, which picture you just saw, was actually in Rentham. And at that house, the mom was home. The girls went down into the basement with the alcohol, and they were doing shots, playing card games. There was about 8 of them in there, and they were not thinking anything of it. And then I was told that Taylor and all the girls decided to go meet the boys. And where the boys were actually at the next town over in Norfolk. And they ended up going over there. And at that house, Tay was greeted with 3 30-packs of beer sitting up on that counter. That alcohol, it had actually been bought by an 18-year-old boy. He was a senior. He had a fake ID. He had gone to his local store to buy the kids the alcohol like he had done before. It was not a big deal for him. I always share where the alcohol came from, because no matter who we are, we're always going to have someone older to ask. Or we might think, what's the big deal? Get online, get a fake ID. Who cares? It's not going to affect anything. I will share with you that those 2 boys have woken up every single day for the last 12 years, knowing that they bought the alcohol that Taylor bought. And I'm sure it hurts. I can share with you, Sean is a very close family friend of ours still to this day. And he struggled with an addiction issue for years because he couldn't forgive himself. I am so fortunate to tell you today that he has, and he lives a full life of recovery, and he is doing amazing. So what ended up happening at that second house party, I was told, was that, well, first, before I tell you that part, so at that second house party, what happened was Taylor actually spilled a beer. And when she spilled that beer, she actually took off that famous sweatshirt, and then she proceeded to wipe up the floor with it. And then she went to a homecoming game in October in New England, 25-degree weather, in just a pair of jeans and a white tank top. I have to share with you that my Tay, she actually called me from that house party. She called me from that house party, and I will never forget it. Thank God I answered the phone. I was home with my youngest, Logan. He had a sleepover. He was 10. And actually, I picked up the phone. I was in front of my washing machine, and I was like, hey, Tay, what's up? And she goes, hey, Mom, we're all taking bets on how much this kid's house is worth. You see, I'm a realtor. I sell houses for a living. So I said, okay, Tay, describe it to me. And she goes, well, it's huge. It's got a big car, 3-car garage. The kitchen's enormous. The deck is huge. And I remember giving Taylor a price, and she screamed in the phone and she said, yes, I won the bet. And I was like, well, Taylor, of course you won the bet. You've been in the backseat of my car now for 15 years selling real estate. You better know your numbers. I hung up the phone, said goodbye and I love you like I always did. And that was the last physical time that I got to speak to my Tay. Now, parents on here, I will tell you, I have a huge regret. That night, I didn't check up on Tay to see where she was going. And I wish I did. I will tell you, Logan, my 10-year-old, see right there, he lived a totally different life with a totally different mom. It's not something I ever took for granted, ever. Now, after that second house party, I was told that all the kids went to the homecoming game. It was like halftime. And when Taylor actually got up to the halftime game, they jumped up on the bleachers. And while she was on the bleachers, she actually sat next to one of her softball friends' moms, and she was chitty chatty. She was chatting away with her. And I have to share with you that that poor woman, she came to my house after Taylor had passed because she had to share something with me. When Taylor was up there that night on the bleachers with her, she knew that Taylor had been drinking, and she asked Taylor if she was driving. And when Taylor said no, she wasn't driving, she said, okay, honey, and she let my Tay leave. I have to share with you that that poor woman sat on my couch and was so sorry that she had done that. Guys, I had to instantly forgive her on that couch because you can't get those moments back. And as a mom, I let her know that I don't know what I would have said if she had called me, and that I'm sorry that she didn't make the phone call, but we can't get those moments back. I always share that with parents at night because we always think, you know what, they're going to be okay. And that is a huge responsibility to take on. You know, I always let the parents know that you need to say something if you see something. You know, we had each other's phone numbers. It would have been easy enough to make a phone call. But you also have to make sure that your kids, friends, parents know that you want that phone call, because so many parents won't say anything because they don't want to become that tattletale parent. And I can assure you, we both wish we did that differently. Now, that was homecoming game, and they actually won. King Philip did not have a good football team at that time, so they won. The kids were super excited. And what me, my Tay, and 22 of our friends decided to do was actually go party some more. And where Tay went with 22 of her friends was actually into the woods. They went to an old abandoned airport. It was pitch dark. It was 9:30 at night. And in order to get to where the campfire was set up, my Tay had to walk about 500 yards. First 200 yards she did, she actually walked down a grass field that was filled grass up to her knees. The next 200 yards my Tay did, she actually walked down the old airport runway. And my last 100 yards my Tay did, she opened up her cell phone for light, because 2008, no flashlight app. She opened up her cell phone and she walked through a pathway of trees that actually led her deeper into the woods, about 100 yards. I was told that the campfire was there. They lit it. They drank the leftover beer and they were just listening to music, having fun. And then at about 11 o'clock, Matei, she had a stupid fight with her best friend. And you know what, girls on here, if you're listening to this, you fight about the stupidest things all the time. It's totally normal. It's not a big deal. But that day, take it up. She was drunk. She was stumbling. She actually started to walk down a different path that would have led her deeper into the woods. And you know what 22 friends told me they did? They told me they laughed because they thought it was funny. And then they supposedly pointed her back to go back those 500 yards by herself. You see, my Tay didn't have a car. She didn't have a ride. She had nobody picking her up. That was the last time that anybody physically saw my Tay at 11 o'clock on Friday night. Now I have to share with you her last phone call. I found out because I had to check her records on Saturday. Her last phone call was at 10:57 p.m. She called her best friend, Courtney. And when she called Courtney, all Courtney could hear was Tay saying, airport, airplane, airport. Poor Courtney. She had no idea what Tay was talking about. She said, Tay, you got to call me back when it's not so loud. I don't understand you. And that is the last phone call my Tay made. Now, kids in the room, pay attention. My Tay, in her worst state, noticed she didn't call her mom. That girl, see that crazy girl right there? She shared everything with me. She was an open book. She would tell me stuff as her mother that I would be like, hello, Tay, I'm your mom. Please don't tell me this. But yet she didn't call me in her worst state. I will share with you, your family, they want that phone call. Parents in the room, make sure you tell your kid you want that phone call, because you would not believe how many schools I go to that when I ask that question during the presentation, would you call your parent? Half of the hands get raised, not even half. Make sure you have that conversation, please. It's so important. Now, that was the last time anybody saw my Tay on Friday night at 11 p.m. I go to bed. Logan had that sleepover. I go to sleep and I wake up Saturday morning. Hold on, this is my favorite picture that stops here for now. I wake up Saturday morning. Excuse me, I have to have some tea. I wake up Saturday morning and now remember Logan, my 10-year-old, he's home with me. And I decide that I'm going to go paint my dining room walls. I'm a single mom at this time. I am not domesticated, to say the least. But I decide I'm going to go paint my dining room walls. So now I'm going back and forth to Lowe's. But what I notice is that Taylor's car, it's not in my driveway. She's not home. She's always home first thing in the morning. No matter what, she would always come home first thing in the morning. So now I start calling her because we were going to have lunch with my family. I start calling her. It's 9, 10, 11, 12. Voicemail. That kid never had her phone off ever. So now I start calling her friends at 12. And when I got a hold of Courtney, she told me about the drunk phone call and she was really, really worried. She goes, Mom, she was really, really drunk. I'm really worried. So now we start calling everybody. By the time I got a hold of Paige, where Tay was supposed to sleep over that night, it was 2:30 in the afternoon. And I said, honey, where's Tay? She said, Mom, I don't know. She didn't sleep here last night and her car is still in my driveway. That poor girl had known something was up. She had been calling Taylor all morning, but I always let the kids know. She didn't call me Tay's mom because she was afraid of getting Taylor in trouble. So guys, if anything feels wrong, just make that phone call, please, because it's so, so important. And as parents, I always share this because that morning when I was looking for my kid, I did not have all of her friends' phone numbers. I had known Paige's home number like the top of my head, whatever that expression is. But when I went to go look for Paige's cell phone number in my cell phone, I did not have it because do you guys remember in 2008 when you had Blackberries and SIM cards? I had literally gotten a new phone the week before and I had lost half my numbers and I didn't even know it. So please make sure that you have everybody's phone numbers that you need, because you never know how important they're going to be when you really need them. So now what happens is I go over and I grab Paige and we drive to Norfolk. We go to the police station, we meet the police, and then we go to the airport. And I walk those 500 yards and I know this is not good. Now, I want you guys to picture this. Picture 600 people, policemen, firemen, rescue workers, helicopters, heat lamps, dogs, scuba divers, and boats, because there is a stupid river that goes through this airport. And I want you to picture them all searching for you or your kid. Because you know what? That's what they did for my Tay all day Saturday. Now, Saturday night, I have to go home and pull into my driveway, and I have no idea where my kid is because they did not find her on Saturday. Sunday, the search starts again, same thing, all those people. The only thing they found on Sunday of Tay was her stupid moccasin slipper. You kids, you wear them in every school I go to. I love them, but that's the only thing they found all day Sunday of Tay. Now I have to go back home. And when I share with you guys that my kid was probably the toughest kid in her school, she could have had a broken head, broken leg. She would have dragged herself out of the woods by now. So I can only imagine what's going through my head. Monday morning, the search starts again. It's 10:33 in the morning, and I am sitting on the ground praying like I've been doing for the last 3 days. And my brother-in-law, he's a captain of a local fire department. And he actually came up to me and he picked me up and he said, Kathy, we found her and she didn't make it. As we all know, those are the worst words we can ever hear about our loved ones. We all know that. When they found my Tay, now she's taller than me. You can't see how tall I am, but I'm 5'6". She's like 5'7", 5'8". She had actually drowned in 2 feet of water. Basically a bathtub. She had crossed a river up to her chest in the freezing cold twice. She had walked in mud all the way up to her knees. She had scratches all over her body, and they found her laying over vegetation, and they believed that she had fallen asleep because of the struggle. All because of the alcohol in her system. The only reason why my kid's not here today, I know it without a doubt. You know, we always think this can never happen to our family members, and I am living proof that it does. Whenever I'm at school, I always turn it around now, and I ask the kids to picture themselves as one of brothers or sisters. Even our adults in the room, picture yourself as one of Taylor's brother or sister. My oldest was 19 and Taylor was 17, and then my youngest was 10. My 10-year-old one day came up to me after Taylor had passed, and he looked at me and he said, hey, Ma, you know what I miss most about Taylor? And I was like, what, Logan? He's a super funny kid, so I thought I was going to get something super funny. And he said, you know what, Mom? I miss the fact that she was so loud when she woke up in the morning. She was my human alarm clock, never even needed to set an alarm. And I was like, oh, Logan. He goes, yeah, I just miss it. I used to go down on the couch with her. And I was like, oh, Logan, I'm so sorry. But you know what? You don't even know when you're affecting your loved ones. Like Taylor had no clue that meant something to him. No clue. Now my 19-year-old and my 17-year-old, how many of you growing up, old people in the room or myself or the young people, how many of you had that love-hate brother-sister relationship, right? Right here, right? I was the youngest of 6. If they could have sold me to the wolves, they would have in a minute, trust me. Zachary and Taylor did not get along. He was total opposite of her. It was total opposites. Do you know what my poor kid said to me at Taylor's funeral? Zachary and I were sitting there and we were looking at her, and he looked at me and he said, Mom, I've actually talked to Taylor more in the last week and a half that she's been missing than I have in months. You just never know, guys. If you have that relationship with your loved ones and you're not really great, do something about it, because you really never know when the opportunity is going to be taken away from you. If he was 32 today and she was turning 30 in July, they probably would have become the best of friends, but they did not get that opportunity. Now, every time I'm in a school, the only time I ever hear noise is when I do this. I ask the kids in the room to picture yourselves as one of Taylor's friends in the woods that night. You were there with her. I can't even imagine it. Now I want you to always look in when they're in a room and they're in the classroom together in the auditorium. I always say, I know you all sit next to your little BFF. Now I want you to look at your little BFF and picture them not sitting there. There's an empty seat because they chose to drink for the night. And that is exactly what happened in Taylor's school. Every single day, 7 periods a day, they looked at Taylor's empty seat because she chose to drink for a night. Like, it's just so silly to even think of, but that's the reality. You know, every October 17th, I go back to Taylor's site because I have to remind myself, why do I run in here, get on a Zoom call and see all you cute little faces? Like, why do people do this, right? And every October 17th, I go back to the site and I'm going to share these photos with you. And I can tell you, and Liz, I'm going to use you again to make sure it's up. Can you see it? Say
I can see it's the picture of you in.
Yes, perfect. Okay. That's my favorite photo. It looks like your eyes follow you everywhere. Okay, so the next photo is what I want to show you. So this is the field. In every single school I go to or every single community night, no matter where I go, there is always that place. There's always that outside place, or there's that house that they know they can party at. This is actually Taylor's Field. The next picture is the airport runway. And these two buildings over here are abandoned. And that's literally where we were for 3 days while we looked for her. This path of trees here is where the campfire goes into. That is actually the pathway of trees. And I have been showing this picture for years. And then I just decided to do this time because to show you exactly what it is. And this is on a nice, bright, sunny day. And they did it in the pitch dark. And this video only goes halfway. That is the campfire. The next picture is a picture of the river. I am standing on a bridge taking this picture. And if you can see this circle right here where it says where they found my Tay, that's actually where they found my Taylor. She was about a few hundred yards away from the bridge. And the detectives, they told me that they believed that Taylor could probably see the street light on the bridge and she was fighting to get to the street light. All alone because of the alcohol in her system. The only reason why my kid's not with me today. This is Google Earth. That blue dot that you see, that's the campfire at the end of the runway. My Tay, she walked through all these trees, all alone. This black line that you see is the river. She crossed it twice, and this is where she was found in this spot. All alone because of the alcohol in her system. I will share with you that I walked this myself 9 months later in May. And I started at the bridge here. And I walked to this spot. And then I told the detective that's not what she did. I need to do what she did. I was in a life jacket. I was suited up. It was the hardest walk I had ever done in my life. I literally sunk up to almost my knees as I came back. It was the worst thing in the world. That is the worst picture in the world. The news was there for days. That's me on the ground collapsed when they told me. That is my oldest son, Zachary, comforting me when I should be comforting him. It's my sister, my niece, my other sister praying over me, thank God, and my brother-in-law who had to tell me. Guys, we don't want this to be our family members because they chose to drink. That's her funeral. It's my youngest and my oldest. And I always let the kids know in the room, do any of them think that any of those poor girls at that house party ever thought they'd be here 8 days later? Absolutely not. We don't. This is my contact information. I have been giving out my email address and my phone number in the beginning, which was foolish. I told all these kids to call me, but then I realized they should be calling you, not me. But I have been giving out my email address since my very first time I spoke. And I can share with you that our kids, they will share anything with me. They will talk to me about drinking, about drugs. So many of them don't do that, thank God. They will talk to me about bullying, self-harm, suicide. They'll look at me and they'll say, you know what? I never realized how much I'm loved. We think our kids know this. You would be shocked at what they share. And I'm going to read an email with you, and then I'm going to share some more stories. But this email right here is one of my most important emails I've ever received in my life. This is from Facebook. I will share with the parents in the room here. When Taylor was alive, she had asked me if she could go on MySpace. Raise a hand. Who remembers MySpace, right? Anybody? Good. Yes. MySpace was huge when Taylor was like 14 or 15. I did not have a Facebook account. Taylor had a Facebook account I did not know about back then. But when Taylor was about 14, she had asked me if she could go on MySpace. And I was like, well, of course you can go on MySpace. I'll go on MySpace. We'll go on MySpace. We'll connect. And I got a MySpace. But I will share with you that as her parent, I was not afraid of what Taylor would be posting. I was afraid that a pedophile would come and get my cute little blonde thing. That was the only thing I was afraid of. I will share with you that Taylor's Facebook post that night was homecoming, getting shattered. As her mom, I probably should have known that. I should have seen that. Parents in here, get on social media, get on all their posts, look what they're doing, because you never ever know. They're great kids making really poor choices. And I will let you know that with Logan, totally parented different. Months later, I got a Facebook, and this woman wrote to me. And she wrote to me one of the best emails, and I'll share, I mean, kids write to me about everything, and I'll share one of those as well. But this is literally from a parent. And it says, I don't even know how to begin my message to you. On November 15th, my 15-year-old son, James, was rushed to the hospital, passed out on the side of the road with a blood alcohol level of 0.308. Now, when I go to schools to let you all know about alcohol poisoning, usually kids know to gasp at that number, but they do not know how they got there. They don't realize that if they drink what Taylor was drinking that night, they're there so quick, they have no idea. Most kids don't know if their friends are passed out or they're throwing up, that it's a sign of alcohol poisoning. So please make sure you let them know that. It says 20 minutes later, I was at the side of his hospital bed when his lungs began to fail and they put a tube down my son's throat. They attached my son to a respirator where he remained in ICU for the next 20 hours. I thank you and Taylor for helping my son. James's friends were unable to keep him walking and moving. They panicked when they were kicked out of a party and James was lying on the road. But two of his friends, they stayed with James. They took his cell phone out and they called me. And they told me later that night that they stayed with my son because they remembered what you said when you spoke at their high school, to never leave your friend behind, to always have each other's back. I have no doubt if it was not for your daughter's story that they would have left him there. I have no doubt my son would be dead. The boys were going to leave him for fear of getting in trouble with the police, but your story was in their heads. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, Kathi. I thought I was losing my son a few times that night, and I am beyond grateful. he is here, and I cannot express how much gratitude I have for you and your daughter's story. Please know that Taylor and her story are the only reason why my kid's alive today. I can only hope that you find comfort knowing that the kids are hearing you, and you have made a huge difference in my son and my life forever. I 100% know that that kid is alive and well and like 28 years old today, all because of my kid. Like, I know that without a doubt. You know what? These presentations, they're not about her. They're not about me. They're about us all learning together and trying to make better choices. And I know she handpicks people. And I'm going to share a little story with you. I went to a school once, and what I did not know about the school, GPS check here, it's how I get everywhere. What I did not know about that school was that it was literally right next door to my worst nightmare. I had to drive by that bridge. I had to drive by an airport arena where all the kids got interviewed. I had to go by that field. By the time I got to that school, I was a disaster, to say the least. I was alone that day. My husband wasn't with me. And I walked into that school. And when I walked into the school, I literally went into the auditorium and I put my stuff up and got it up on the screen. And I ran out of that auditorium. As I ran out, there was a little man, young, tall kid there. And I looked at him and I said, "Where's the bathroom?" And he said, "I'll bring you." And I said, "Hi, I'm Kathy." And he said, "Hi, I'm Cameron." And he walked me to the bathroom. I go in the bathroom, I blow my nose, wash my face off, get myself back together so I can talk to these kids. And I walked into the auditorium. And by the time I got into that auditorium, like I told you, I usually greet all the kids. Every single solitary kid was sitting down in their seats. I did not connect with a single solitary kid. There was one young lady coming in, and she was late, and she was holding a Dunkin' Donut cup. And I looked at her, and she had blonde curly hair, and I looked at her, I said, "Dunkin' Donuts, love Dunkin' Donuts. Dawn and I drank it all the time together." She goes, "Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I really needed this today." And she was hiding it like this. And I used to have, she had the Dunkin' Donut, she was hiding it with paper. She goes, "But I'm hiding it because they don't let me bring it in here." So I'm like, "Okay, go sit down." And I used to bring Taylor's eulogy, and they would print the eulogy. So if ever you want to see that, go under Sullivan's message. But she walked down and she sat down next to a friend. So now I go to the beginning of the auditorium and I sit down and I explain to the kids, "Hey, listen, kids, I'm really sorry I didn't get to connect with you. Had I ever known where your school was, I never would have shown up." Right? So they were like, "What?" And then I started talking. So after my talk, I'm a huge hugger. COVID is killing me, but I'm a huge hugger. So when I speak, the kids, I don't ask them to come down. They just all come down and they come down to talk to me. Well, I need to let you know that Millis High School, where I was, I don't know if any of you all know that, but the school's wicked small. It's like really small area from the stage, which I never stand on. I'm always on the ground, to where the kids can meet. Small area. There are principals behind me, teachers behind me. Everybody's within earshot. This girl comes down at the very end of the line and she is literally hysterically crying. Her best friend is holding this girl up. And I was like, "Oh my God, what's wrong with you?" Right? She had boogies running down her face. The girl was a mess, right? So I looked at her, I go, "Honey, what's wrong with you?" And she goes, "You don't understand. My mom, she could never take this. She would never be able to take this. I'm an only child." And I'm like, "Well, honey, you're here. You're going to make better choices, right?" She looked at me and she goes, "No, I was at a party last week. I was so drunk. The police came, I ran into the woods. That could have been me." And I said, "Well, honey, it's not going to be you. You're going to make better choices." And do you all know, it was the Dunkin' Donut chick, the only girl that I spoke to. But it even gets creepier. Behind her, now remember, police officer, principal, boy walked up to me. "I'm really sorry. That was my house. I put all my friends in danger." And it was Cameron, the kid who brought me to the bathroom. No word of a lie. I can't make this stuff up, people. Like, I swear she handpicks me, people, just like she handpicked me to my hubby. I know it without a doubt. I will share with all of you that the coolest things have come from this. every single day we get something else from one of these stories. Very quickly, I am a huge advocate of social host law. I know that you guys are in New Hampshire, right? Yes, right? So your law is probably different than mine, but we have a social host law that says that anyone who furnishes under 21 is breaking the law. There's a fine, there's everything else. Well, I will share with you that I went to schools for a full year and I did presentations, donated all this time and went everywhere under the sun for a full year. And there was party after party after party still in my community, which I could not understand. And within maybe a 5-month period, there were 7 parties that were broken up by the police. And a few of them had Taylor's friends still at that house parties. And I could not get it. I remember calling Paige's mom. Now remember, Paige and I are on good graces now, but I remember calling Paige's mom and saying, what are they thinking? Like, why can't they get it? And I said, you know what, I'm going to go down to the courthouse tomorrow. They're all getting arraigned. There was another like 25 kids getting arraigned. And I said, they're all getting arraigned. I'm going to go down. So I went down to a very, very small courthouse. When I'm telling small lobby. And when I would see a kid with their bracelets on, I walked up to the kid and I said, hey, can I please have your bracelet? This is not how you're supposed to honor my child. And I'm telling you, they ripped them right off. They handed them to me and they felt horrible. I will share with you that out of all those kids there, not a single parent came up to me to say, what are we going to do? Because you know what? I understand I'm their worst nightmare. They don't want to live my life. But not one of those kids' parents came up to me to say, what are we going to do about this? I went into the courtroom and I had literally like 30 bracelets in my hand. And the judge figured out who I was. And he came up to me and he said, can you come up here? And I walked up to him and he goes, Kathi, he goes, you have taught these kids more than my $50 fine can ever teach them from being here and asking for that bracelet back. But you know what hurt me the most? It wasn't the kids. They're kids, their brains are not functioning. They don't make great choices. What bothered me was when those kids were in that courtroom, they had their papers that they were signing to do like whatever courtroom they had to go to and the paperwork they had to sign. They were literally hiding their faces because the news was there. And that hurt. But what hurt worse as a mom was the parents that were doing that same exact thing next to their kid. It was such a teachable moment, like what I would have done to have been able to be there with Taylor. We always think our kids are going to make good choices. They don't. I have another 5 more minutes and then we'll get chatting. But I'm going to give you another example of how kids don't always make good choices. My 10-year-old grew up with a totally different mother. I was a mother that had that rite of passage attitude. Kids are going to be kids. My 19-year-old, I bought alcohol for him because he was 19 years old. I thought, well, he's an adult. He's 18. What's the big deal? I had my first baby at 20. I was married at 19. I did not think anything of it. I will share with you, 3 weeks after Taylor's passing, that boy had the nerve to come up and ask me to buy him something. And I looked at him and I said, are you kidding me, Zachary? What haven't you learned? It was instant for me. I instantly understood 21's 21 for a reason because of all the brain. My life has taken a total 360 in the last 12 years. I know about this stuff, which I never thought I would know about this stuff. And I love the saying, when you know better, you do better, because I'm a living example of it. But I also live, breathe, and eat this, and not everybody does. My youngest son, as I told you, my 10-year-old, he grew up with a totally different mother. Like I was on that kid with everything he ever tried to get by me. Nothing got by me, to say the least. But I always thought he would make good choices too. He basically lives in a sober house. I never drank that much to begin with, so it didn't really matter to me. When I met my husband 5 weeks sober and we got married 2 years later, I never drank after I met him. It wasn't important. So literally basically lives in a sober house. So long story short, Logan is now a sophomore. So remember, he was 10. So now picture him being 16, like the sophomore that was in the room at Amanda's house. He came in one day no, he didn't come in. Sorry. The story goes like this. I'm a realtor. Once again, I told you that. I was at an open house one day, and one of Logan's friends' mothers called me and said, hey, Kath, I got something I need to talk to you about. I said, okay, what? She goes, well, can I come over? And I go, well, I'm at an open house. What's up? She goes, oh, I'd rather tell you in person. I'm like, oh, just tell me. It doesn't matter. So she said to me, okay, she goes, well, I know that you're all about co-parenting because I think we should all parent together. You know, it takes a village. So I said, absolutely. She goes, well, my friend called me because she doesn't know you, but Logan was over at his house. So Pat's mom had called Kristen, who I know. And she goes, well, she called me because she doesn't know you directly. She didn't want to call you. I said, okay. She goes, well, Logan was over there this weekend. I said, oh yeah, no, he was over. She goes, well, she found some pot debris in his trash barrel. And I was like, what? And she goes, yeah. And I said, oh, okay, good to know, right? So I call my husband up. Now I'm at the open house and I call up Chris. I go, Chris, and I told him the story. I go, you go up to Logan's room, you search for whatever you can find, right? Now I'm thinking, this is my sweet, innocent child who basically lives in a sober house. He's never going to have anything in his room, right? My hubby calls me 2.3 seconds later and he said, you're not going to believe what I found. And I went, what did you find? And he goes, well, on the side of his bed, you know those Beats, the music, the headsets, boom, 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 they come in a beautiful case. And in that beautiful case on the side of my 14-year-old's bed was this gorgeous glass bong that he had somehow resourcefully bought online. And he had a grinder, he had pot. The kid looked like a professional smoker, right? And I was like, oh my God. Now that weekend he had been at his dad's because, you know, I was never with his dad. So he was at his dad's house and I called him. I said, hey, Logan, when are you coming home? He goes, oh, probably like 5. I said, you know what? I'm going to pick you up. And mind you, I'd never picked him up in like 14 years. So he goes, okay. And so now he had a cell phone. So I thought he's going to know by the time I get there, right? So I go to pick up Logan and I get him in the car. And parents in the room, the best place you can ever have a conversation with your child is on the highway because they can't go anywhere. Just letting you know that, right? So I get him in the highway and I get him in the car and I said, hey, Logan, I go, I have a question for you. Now, before I start to tell this portion of the story, I need you all to go back in time 30 days with me. 30 days prior to this, my niece, she's basically my age. We're 7 years apart. She has a kid, Logan's age. Debbie, my niece, says to me, hey, Kathy, keep an eye on Logan. I go, what are you talking about? She goes, well, he's been wearing a lot of that Axe, you know, the spray, the deodorant spray. She goes, he's been wearing a lot of that spray. He might be covering up the smell or something. And I was like, what? He's been wearing that forever. So I said, okay, he might be smoking pot. So 30 days prior to this car ride I'm now having, I had said to Logan, hey, Logan, Debbie thinks you're smoking pot. Are you smoking pot? And he was like, oh my God, no, Mom, I would never do that. And we laughed, ha ha, he he, of course you would never do that. You live in a sober house, right? 30 days later, I've got Logan in the car with me with his drug debris in his house. And I call him and I go, hey, Logan, sit next to him. And I go, Logan, I have a question for you. And he goes, what? I go, do you remember 30 days ago when I asked you if you were smoking pot? And he goes, yes. And I said, okay, do you remember what you said? And he goes, yeah, I told you no. And I said, exactly. I said, you know what, Log? I'm going to ask you the same question. And I need you to remember that honesty is the best policy. And he goes, okay. And I said, Logan, are you smoking pot? And he looked at me and he goes, yes, Mom, I am. And I was like, well, why didn't you say that 30 days ago, right? So he looked at me and goes, well, Mom, I knew I would have to have this conversation. And I was like, yeah, of course you're going to have this conversation. Logan, what are you thinking? And he goes, Mom, he goes, let me tell you something. He goes, I promise you that I will never, ever drink until I'm at least 21, because the thought of it makes me sick to my stomach. And I said, well, Logan, that's really good. I'm glad to hear that. I go, well, what are you thinking? Whether you're smoking pot or drinking, same thing. You can't make good choices for yourself. And he goes, oh no, Mom, it's totally different. I go, what? He goes, I would never smoke that much pot. Some of my friends do, but I would never smoke that much. And I said, really, Log, how are you going to know? And he looked at me very seriously as his 14, 15-year-old self. And he goes, because my friends will tell me. And I looked and I go, really, Log? Did Taylor's friends tell her she was drinking too much? And he said, no. And I said, you know what, Logan, I just made your life really easy because you hopefully won't drink because Taylor, no, I'm going to drug test you on a regular basis. And I go, so hopefully we made your life a little easier. So then I said to him, am I going to find anything? And he explained to me exactly what I was going to find. So that was refreshing. He was honest about his drug paraphernalia, right? So I looked and I said, okay, Logan, I already found it. And then I said, what I did was I drove home. And what I did was say, this is my street. I drive by my street. And he looks at me and he's like, Mom, where are we going? And I pulled into my local police department. And I said, well, Officer Rocket is waiting for you. Your drug paraphernalia is in my glove compartment. Feel free to go bring it in. And he looked at me, he's like, I don't want to do that. I said, I understand you don't want to do that. I said, but until we know better, we don't do better. So go, be accountable. And the boys stayed in my local little Plainville town police department for like 2 hours. And they basically said, Logan, you know what? Your mom just made your high school career really easy because hopefully you won't drink because Taylor, and now you're not going to do drugs because we're going to drug test you. But you know what? This was a kid who's lived and breathed it. This is a kid whose parents do this, you know, but yet I never said there'll be no smoking illegal drugs in my house, but like, because I assumed it was something he knew. So what I'm saying to all of you on here is have the conversations, talk about everything, because you cannot assume anything. You know, I have learned the toughest lessons from the loss of my kid. And the things that I like to say, hold on, social media, the Logan story, teachable moments. Yep. Yeah, that's basically everything, because I always do like my parent night too when I do a Zoom thing. So the only advice that I can continue to give you guys is keep doing this stuff. You know, I feel like I'm kind of preaching to the choir, because normally people who sign on for these things are like the people who come to the meetings at night and stuff. But you know what? We all are in this together. We all have conversations. Each and every one of you have a voice. You can talk about it with people and let people know what's important, you know, because at the end of the day, you know, I have a tattoo of Taylor's face right here. If you can see it. She gains weight when I gain weight. I'm sure she's not happy right now, but I have her right here because I need to see my kid every single day. And this is the only way I get to now. So kids in the room that can still see me, your parents need you. They need you. Parents, make sure your kids know that they need you. It's like so hugely important. You know, I always say to Chris and I always talk to each other, because he like was an NFL player, struggled for 6 years with a heroin addiction, lost everything. And I always say, if we had the time machine, I wouldn't get in it. I would not get in it, because I think your life happens the way it's supposed to. And the lessons that you can bring to other people are what this is all about. You know, you guys are lucky to have Katie at your fingertips. You guys do amazing stuff, Miss Liz and everybody else that's on here with them. They're lucky to have you. So use the resources, use them, because they're there at your fingertips. Like you heard everything she was saying before we started this, listing this, all at your fingertips. So thank you, Miss Liz, for making it possible to make this happen tonight. You know, I originally got a hold of you guys, or affiliated with you guys and you, Tara, because of Dover to Dover Youth to Youth organization. And how close are you guys all? Like, are any of you from Dover? No, you can, yeah, Liz? Like,
It's about like an hour and a half.
Yeah, okay.
An hour and 40 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, New Hampshire's big. I mean, Plainville's long, you guys are long this way, you know, but use what you got, because you're at your fingertips. So, you know, they're lucky to have you. So, yeah, so, you know, if anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me. I'm an open book and I'm not shy. We have a couple of things on here. Yeah, that's everybody. Oh, she's so sweet. Yeah, you guys are adorable. So does any of you have questions that you want to ask me? You can all unmute yourself and chitty chat away if you'd like.
Yep, and please, everybody, if you have a question, you can either do it in chat if you don't want to be recorded, or you can unmute yourself. And we are so lucky that Kathy is going to do her presentation to Plymouth Regional High School's prom safety in May. So we are so excited for that. And cannot thank you enough for your message. It is so important, and you're so right. Tay is a blessing, and you
Right,
are a
so
blessing, and thank you so much
whoops,
for
that's-
all that you do.
Well,
And
thank-
everyone, right?
yeah.
What I have, Miss Diane doesn't know. You gotta mute Diane. Mute Diane.
Well,
Yeah, there we
and
go. Yeah.
if please go ahead. There's the survey link in the chat box, so you can go in and do that survey really quick. But please,
Yeah.
the floor is open for questions.
Floor is open. Does anybody have any questions? Don't be shy. Everybody's always like, no, I'm good. Why don't I share a quick story about a New Hampshire girl? Can I do this quickly? I had the best thing. Did I share this with you yet, Liz? No, I don't think I did. I had the best thing happen to me the other day. So long story short, Dover's Youth to Youth group has literally been bringing me to New Hampshire since 2010. He saw a Boston Globe article, asked me to go, and they have that awesome youth center down there. So I've been going there forever with them. And then they bring us to Dover. We usually speak to the juniors at Dover High School, right? So when I went to Dover High School, I'm getting the email out. When I went to Dover High School once, they also brought us to the community center, and it's something Bud Community Center. And this is a second chance school. So it's a second chance high school. The kids didn't function in the high school, and they got to go to the second chance high school, which is in like a community center. So we went in there, and when we went in there, I remember there were like police officers with guns, like it was like a scary place. And I was like, oh my God, where are we? So we go in there, and they've got the table set up, and the tables are set up in little square rooms, right? So like there's a circle in the middle where we would stand, and the kids were at these white tables, and there was maybe like 25 kids. So while Chris talks, because Chris always talks first, while Chris was speaking, there was this girl there, and this is a tough subject, but she was there, and she was holding her hand of her boyfriend, right? So all I could see was like this portion of her hand. But when I noticed her, she had literally self-harmed from her wrist all the way to her elbow, and the deepest scars I had seen. It was so sad. So after I got done talking, I ended up calling her over to me, and I said, hey, honey, can I talk to you for a sec? She goes, yeah. And I said, listen, I said, I just want you to know that while Chris was speaking, I did see your arms. I said, and I need you to know that whatever you're going through, you're going to be okay. Your scars are no different than my scars that I have in my heart every single day from losing Tay. And I said, and whatever you're going through, your negative situation can define you positively somehow eventually. And I said, I want you to know that somebody loves you. No matter who you are, somebody loves you. And I always have these bracelets. I did not have a single bracelet that day. I had given them all away. The only thing I had on me that day was an Alex and Ani St. Christopher bracelet, because of my husband, Christopher. But then I noticed underneath it, it said to protect us. That's what that saint does. So I actually took the bracelet off and I handed it to it. I said, I need you to have this. I said, it says to protect us. I go, and I need you to know that there is always someone out there to protect you. No matter who you are, someone loves you. And she looked at it and she goes, thank you. And she put it on. That night, she emailed me. And she said, Kathy, that was the kindest thing that a perfect stranger has ever done. Thank you so very much. And she sent me a picture of it with her scars. And do you know that she emailed me, like we got to become Facebook friends and whatnot. And then about a year and 2 months later, that girl wrote me an email. And she said, Kathy, I have been a year clean from self-harm, all because you spoke to me that day. And I was literally losing myself, because it was literally on the anniversary of the day that they had found Taylor. That was the day I got the email. So she was giving me something back when I was giving her something. And I always share, sometimes when I share that story with students, I always like them to realize that we all have a voice. Like whoever we are, if we see something, just say something, and you never, ever know, you know? And what happened through her through the years is she's been on my Facebook. We, you know, go back and forth with posts and stuff. And last week, she literally had texted me and she said, hey, Kathy, can I use you as a reference for Hope on Haven Hill. Now, do any of you know Hope on Haven Hill in Rochester, in the area, right? So Hope on Haven Hill is a facility for women who are pregnant that struggle with substance use. And you're allowed to go into that home. It's an 8-bed home. It's the only one in New Hampshire they got. It's amazing who does that. Check them out, Hope on Haven Hill. But you literally get to go in when you're pregnant. If you're struggling with substance use and you want to get clean, you go in pregnant, you live there your whole entire time till you have the baby. And then you're allowed to live there for a year afterwards with your child. But then the coolest thing is, even after that, now they have an Abby's house that you're able to bring your older kids to keep the program going for you. So when she said that to me, I was like, oh my God, I didn't know she was pregnant, right? So I go, Lily, honey, I didn't know you were pregnant. And she goes, no, I'm not pregnant. I'm looking to apply for a job to help the people as a resource, something or other, right? And I was like, yes, right? Because like, here it is, this girl who I met in 2014 is now, because her family members struggle with addiction. Now she's getting a job to be able to help people because somebody helped her. And I literally wrote this to her, and it's the coolest thing, and it just makes me cry. And I go, Lily, this is such a full circle story. I go, the irony that I met you in 2014, that you and I have stayed Facebook friends for years, that your story of self-harm that I share sometimes when I speak has saved so many others from the same struggle. I go, and the fact now that you are going to go help others at Hope on Haven Hill, whom I only met because of the Dover Youth to Youth group and Vicki and Dana, it's just another perfect example how everything happens for a reason. I already called Carrie and I told her she has to hire you because I know the woman who runs it. And this is what she wrote back to me. She wrote back and she goes, it truly is full circle story. I'm incredibly thankful to have met you and have heard Tay's story. You changed the entire path of my life.
Oh.
I know. And it says, I really don't know where I'd be if I hadn't met you. I hope you know how much you mean to me. And I responded with, oh my God, you're going to make me cry. I go, thank you so much for saying that. It's really like I get a piece of my Tay back every single time she enters someone else's life. You and I were destiny. You know, all day long, those things happen, but it only happens because you're willing to connect with people. It only happens because you're willing to say something. And trust me, I'm not an educated person. I just see something, you say something. You don't have to know the words, guys. You just literally have to, you could even smile at somebody and make a damn difference. Like that's literally how all of this works, you know? So that's my best advice I could give you guys, you know, just go by your gut because that girl, she's going to be flipping amazing, you know? And, you know, it's all because of Tay. And if I didn't go through what I went through, I wouldn't be this person today. So if you're struggling with something, or your family members are struggling with substance use, or whatever reason brought you here to this Zoom to want to listen to this message, please keep fighting, keep knowing that there's a reason. It's the only thing I can suggest. So yeah, miracles do happen. Make them happen.
Yes,
You
they
know?
do.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And I have to tell you, Amanda, I love that you're sitting there with your daughter because I absolutely love to see mom and daughter team, especially in a sweatshirt. I love it. So you keep up the good work. And what's your daughter's name?
Her name is Cadis.
Oh, I like that. Very cool, Mom. Cadis, take good care of your mother. She needs you, okay? Yes.
I do.
Thank you. And know it, Cadis, I want you to be able to say, you know what? No, I met Taylor's mom. I don't feel like having a beer. Thank you very much. Use and abuse her is what I always tell everybody. You know, if it gives you the power, it gives you the power. How old are you, Sally?
I'm 22.
Oh, you look like a baby.
I don't, thank you. I was gonna
That's
say I'm from Massachusetts, but I'm on the call because I'm an intern with Katie and I go to school here in New Hampshire. But I am 100% positive I've heard this before. Like I'm pretty sure you came to my high school because my principal at my high school used to be the principal at King Philip.
Oh yeah, okay. Who's your principal?
Well, I hope it's still the same guy, but it was Mr. Chaplin was my principal when I graduated.
Okay.
He used to be at that high school, and I know like
That's so
started talking a little, and then like the more I heard this, I was like, I know I've heard this before.
yeah.
But it
Yeah.
was just as good the second time.
Oh, good, good. Well, it's so funny because sometimes I'll go into schools and like the kids would have heard it as freshmen, but then they're like being forced to hear it again as a senior and the story doesn't change. I mean, a couple little things do, but but they literally, when I say, oh my God, I'm so sorry I had to listen to it again. And they'll go, oh my God, no, we got so much more out of it because they're literally in the thick of it, So yeah, so I'm super excited and keep up the good intern because that's a great place to intern.
Thank you.
She's
Yeah, I'm
amazing.
very
She
Yeah.
really is.
Oh, that's awesome. Good job, Miss Sally. Yep. So does anybody have any questions? So thank you for you and say hi to Chris. Oh, Tara. I love you, Tara. You're so cute. Yeah. So if
I think there are a couple
Yeah.
questions in there.
yeah.
Kinda
Oh, no, I didn't even look at the question and answers. Where was it? In the chat?
Diane asked a question. There's why did Paige leave her there and how did the relationship get repaired?
Oh,
Paige?
yes. God bless my Paige. So Paige left her there because she was drinking and being stupid just along with Taylor. They were 17-year-olds. That's, they all just thought she'd be okay, and when they're all making the same choices, how do you know different? I think poor Paige suffered a lot more than most because she loved Taylor that much. And she did have that fight supposedly with her. But you know what? Kids are kids, they're going to fight. That's like not something you get back. It's not something that's supposed to bring us here today. Paige struggled for years and years and years afterwards. And her thing was what I was told was she didn't want to drink. So then she started using drugs and then that made it worse. And she ended up, having a heroin addiction for years. And because she just couldn't forgive herself. And I would hear things about her and and then we did file a lawsuit against this after nobody was learning the lesson. So my social host law, I wanted to learn the truth and I needed to learn the truth. So we realized that if we did that, we might be able to find out some truths and we could do something like MAD does with Mothers Against Drunk Driving. If we were to put ourselves out there, we might be able to change how the social host law works. So we filed the suit afterwards and that obviously started a whole other thing with the town. And I knew why I was doing it. It was by no means money. It was to be able to find out the truth. Paige was part of that suit because her and her brother supplied some of the alcohol. We had been really, really close as families. Obviously, with everything that happened, that stopped for a short period of time. But then when Paige was struggling, and they were out of the suit early, early on before it was settled. So when she was struggling, and I found out she was struggling, I was reaching out to her saying, you have to forgive yourself. I have forgiven you a long time ago. I forgave myself for my choices a long time ago. I did so many things that I wish I did differently with Taylor. I said, I had to forgive myself. You have to forgive yourself. And she finally, a few years back, got herself home and just faced the piper basically, and got a hold of her sobriety, got around great people, and she's been sober now, I want to say for 2 or 3 years, and she's amazing. She's this amazing little mom. But I would reach out to her and say, you got this, you got this, you got this, so and it's funny because if ever I could get her to talk, it would be awesome, but I just don't know if that's hard to swallow, as a person. And she's still only 29 and she's, new in her recovery as well. So she's doing really well. And she wishes, I wish I wasn't me and she wishes she wasn't you, so I think when we were able to get that relationship mended, she just had a beautiful little girl. And I reach out to her all the time and how you doing, and anniversaries are tough for all of us, so I try to reach out to her. So we have surprisingly mended that relationship. But you also have to remember, with the social host law, Sean, who supplied the alcohol at 21, also another family friend, he was involved in the suit too. If you think it was an easy decision to do this, it was atrocious, but he was involved in the suit and I know his mother well. And we've had conversations that neither one of us wanted to be each other, but we both learned so much from it, and Sean actually, a funny story. He was not funny, but funny. He was at a meeting with my husband because in AA. And they ended up being at the same meeting and Sean was literally telling the story and Chris realized it was about Taylor and was like, oh my God, am I supposed to be here listening to this, And I was like, you tell him I'm super proud of him. You tell him I'm very, very proud of him and I'm so glad he's doing well. And then we started texting, and that anniversary of Taylor's anniversary that year, he came to my house had dinner with his sponsor and sat at my kitchen table with the mom who he had supplied the alcohol for. Because you know what? We all make poor choices. If we make better choices because of them, that's all you can ask for. So that's literally how I have mended the relationships with literally 9 out of 10 of the people, you know, because none of us wanted to be ourselves and we all learned from it, you know? So that is a very, very good question. So we don't get together physically at all like that much, but I remember seeing her when she had grown up a little bit, and it was like crushing to me because I hadn't seen her for so long that she was so old. But you know, that's what's going to happen, you know, and people on here who have lost people can totally relate to that. Yeah. Was there any other questions in there?
I don't think
I don't
so,
think
but
so,
there
yeah.
are some amazing messages in there. So please,
Yeah,
read
yeah, I
them-
definitely will. Yeah,
go ahead and
yeah.
read those messages. And
that's awesome. Yeah,
again, thank you so much, Kathy. This has
my
been
pleasure.
such a heartbreaking, but also very inspirational story. And
Yeah,
like I said, you are such a blessing.
You
We're
know what,
so thankful.
if we all can learn from it, you know, and then, you know, the next generation coming up is going to be better, you know.
Absolutely.
And you know, it's
Absolutely.
all about just making yourself accountable for your actions, you know,
Absolutely.
because nobody's perfect. Nope. So keep that up. Miss Sally, keep up the good work. I'm proud of you. And everybody, if you want to reach out to me afterwards, my email address is just sullivansmessage@gmail.com. So if anybody wanted to chat privately, we can throw that in the chat. Hold on, I'll try to keep myself here, sullivansmessage@gmail.com. There you go. Yep. And then phone number 508-369-2518 if anybody needs me. Okay. And honestly, now remember, my husband's in recovery 12 years. If you have anybody who's struggling or just needs to talk to somebody, we're only a phone call away. Okay. Because we opened up this little resource center, see behind me. So when COVID hit, we were going into the schools, obviously. Well, when COVID hit, there were no schools. So we were like, how are we going to make this happen? And obviously Zoom got going with school talks, presentations. Like you said, we're going to Plymouth. Well, I have 5 dogs. Yes, crazy dog lady here. You can't do a Zoom meeting with 5 dogs. Not possible. I ended up having to run across this space and it was disgusting, but we redid it and we rent this little office space. So it's this room, another room, and a waiting room. And what is so nice about this is we get to do quiet Zoom meetings with a big microphone and the camera and all that stuff. But the best part about it is I get to meet moms who have lost their kids and sit here and talk to them. Chris gets to sit here and talk to people who are struggling. We get to talk to parents whose kids are struggling. You know, we have a 15-year-old kid that's in and out. You know, you would think he was 30 years old with his rap sheet. You know, we get to meet those people to be able to offer some sort of comfort, you know, and try to offer some guidance. But they also, the coolest thing happened last week is there's some local sober houses around here. And word on the street has gotten out about this place. So I'm offering the space for them to be able to bring their person in, because sober houses are so busy. As you know, there's people all over the place, so you can't have a personal conversation with your sponsor. So if you're going through the steps and you want to be able to learn the steps or even talk about the steps with your sponsor, there's no privacy. So I'm like, guys, the door's open. You can use the rooms anytime you want. Mm-hmm. So I've had people doing step meetings here every Tuesday one-on-one, which I love. And then I have another one who came in yesterday and he read his 5th step to them, you know, but it gave them the privacy to do that. So, you know, COVID happened for a reason, so I could get these doors open somehow. And it only cost me $500 a month for my rent. And I was like, that even came as a blessing too, you know, so the speeches will take care of that and we'll be able to keep the doors open. So it's just amazing. So yeah. It's good. So if you know anybody, come to Plainville. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Kathy.
Okay. Thank you guys. Go to bed. Go to sleep. Okay.
And have a wonderful evening, everybody. Thank you for being on.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll see you in the future webinars.
Awesome. Yes. No, we'll be there. So, and hey, and do that climb above addiction thing if you want.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. There's another one my husband's doing. If you want to meet my hubby, he's talking next Saturday. It's like a 9 to 12 or something, but it's called Climb Above Addiction. So just look it up and you'll be able to find it.
Absolutely.
And that's, you know, Katie's, you know, you're sponsoring that too. So that's so sweet of you. Yeah. So we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We like to see you're going to pay the rent for the month. So thank you, Katie. Yes, if you think it, like, seriously, it's $500. So thank you. Keeps the doors open.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's well worth it.
Yes, awesome. Thank you. Thank
You're
you. Thank you. Okay. Bye, guys.
Have a great night.
Thank you,
Bye.
Kathy.
Bye, guys. Have a good night.